Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the College Credit Plus FAQ. This event is co-sponsored by Christian Home Educators of Ohio and Cedarville University. We are coming to you live from the campus of Cedarville in our university newsroom. I'm Sarah Gump, and I will be your moderator this afternoon. If you're not familiar with Cedarville, I'd like to share a few quick facts before we get into the FAQs. First, we are an accredited Christ-centered university in Southwest Ohio. We currently have over 150 areas of study. Our current enrollment is 4,715 undergraduate and graduate students. We are recognized nationally for authentic Christian community and rigorous academics. We both offer asynchronous online dual enrollment courses, and we accept CCP funding, which is what we'll be getting into in just a few minutes. And for more information about Cedarville University, please visit us online at cedarville.edu. You can also follow us on social media on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter. So joining me this afternoon, I have two guests. They are the subject matter experts. First, I have Shelley Daub. She is one of Cedarville's dual enrollment advisors. And then I have Melanie Elsey. She is the CHEO legislative liaison. And if you don't know what CHEO stands for, that is Christian Home Educators of Ohio. We will use it frequently, but that is what CHEO stands for. So Melanie, can you give us a brief introduction and overview of what CHEO stands for and tell us about yourself?
Sure. Well, for more than 30 years, CHEO has been a ministry to home educating families, both in support and also we have the role that I play as a legislative liaison monitors state policy, even federal policy when necessary, but mostly state policy to make sure that laws and administrative rules don't interfere with the freedoms that we have to home educate. We are a Christ-centered ministry, so we are interested in supporting families who want to fulfill that biblical role within their family of teaching their children at home. We offer regional and specialized events around the state, getting started workshops all over the state. This coming April 2nd, coming up pretty quick, we have a high school symposium. Shelley will be helping us in the workshops for that day. We have a consultant coming in from Homeschool Legal Defense, someone coming in from the trades. We have those workshops are designed to help families feel very comfortable navigating those high school years, learning how to write transcripts, all of the nuts and bolts of the high school years. And then that event is followed the same day by a college fair, so you can speak with college representatives from all over the place, even outside of Ohio that day. But that is basically what we do. We want to protect the regs that we have. We want to provide support for families on their journey.
Can you tell us about how you became a legislative liaison?
That's a longer story than we have for Facebook Live. But I stepped into looking at legislation more broadly than education policy initially. Just when I stepped out of the public school classroom, which I was a junior high teacher, came home before we had children. Actually, we had just started having children, and we didn't have all three of them yet. But once I started learning how to read legislation and interact with my own legislators, I began writing short little articles for local churches, and then that kind of expanded. So the public policy piece is my that is just fun for me. It's not fun for everybody, but I enjoy speaking with legislators and reading legislation and trying to determine how the policy written will actually have effect on families. For CHEO, I do it focused on education policy, and then for another organization, I do it more broadly in other policy areas. But I can't begin to describe what CHEO does in this setting. You really do need to go to our website at cheohome.org or follow us on social media as well, Facebook and Instagram. Look for Christian Home Educators of Ohio.
That's wonderful. Now, Shelley, you have an experience as a home educator and as a dual enrollment advisor. So tell us about yourself.
Sure. And I want to say Melanie left out that very importantly that she was a homeschool mom as well. So
Yes.
I think that you've had that hat off for a little while, and maybe you forget that that makes you who you are.
Our children are in their mid-30s, and we have grandchildren, but we educated K-12.
Yes,
Yes, we did.
yes.
Wow.
So my role at Cedarville is as a dual enrollment academic advisor. So when a student is accepted to Cedarville, they are assigned to one of 4 academic advisors, and we walk the student through the process. You know, there's so much to learn about dual enrollment that maybe doesn't have a whole lot to do with chemistry or math or English. The advisor's role is to help students choose courses, help them get oriented to all of the resources that are available at the university, and just to help them navigate the system. So that's my role here at Cedarville. I'm also a homeschool mom. I have 5 sons. I've home educated all of them from K through 12, and I'm finishing my journey this year. It's year 26, so I call it my marathon.
Oh. Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Impressive.
And you have 4 sons?
I have 5 sons.
5 sons.
And they have all participated in dual enrollment. Between them, I think they've attended 10 different colleges. So I know a little bit about CCP.
Just a little bit. So today we are going to be trying to answer some frequently asked questions in relation to dual enrollment and College Credit Plus. So I encourage you to type in your questions into the comments box. We are both on Facebook Live and on YouTube and our cedarville.edu webpage, but you can only ask questions on YouTube and Facebook. So please type in your questions. We will try our best to answer them. So we're going to start off today by explaining what the College Credit Plus program is. Can one of you please explain?
Sure. It's a state-funded program. The funds come through the state's general revenue fund. It's designed to allow students to go through the college courses where they're dually applying the credits for college and their high school experience. So it started many years ago through a post-secondary enrollment option labeled program. It has transitioned into what we now know as College Credit Plus. And the State General Revenue Fund last summer through House Bill 110 allocated $3 million per year for the next 2 years. The state's budget's always a biennial budget. It's a 2-year budget cycle. So that's where we're at. And those dollar amounts are set through formulas per credit hour. And then through the application process, you will be awarded a certain number of credit hours. Then you can apply those dollars to pay for the tuition. For home educated families, the dollars will apply toward the tuition for the course, but you would be responsible for the course materials, textbooks, and fees.
So this is a taxpayer-funded program.
Yes, it is.
So does this mean this is for Ohio families only?
For families who reside and have filed to home educate within Ohio, yes.
Okay. Okay. Very good. So since CCP is a taxpayer-funded program, we answered that question. Moving on. So you shared that there's a new program called ACE or ACE. Which one is it?
It's the After School Childhood Enrichment Program.
Okay.
Now this program is a grant program, or it's flow through federal dollars through the state budget. There are parameters to the program. They passed it in statute with House Bill 110 last summer. The dollars were allocated through the federal stream of funding that came through the COVID relief. So it's only going to be available for this year and next year. And then that ACE program goes away. There's a statutory boundary to that. It sets up a scholarship amount of $500 per child between the ages of 6 and 18. It is available to all students, public, privately educated, home educated. The concept behind it was to help students catch up or get enriched, that's why it's called an enrichment program, from time lost during COVID. And so there are categories of expenses that can be reimbursed to families, whether it be tuition for a learning extension center, it could be field trips, it could be a wide variety, but there was a carve-out language in there for home educated students. And that language says that if the student has been excused from compulsory attendance for the purpose of home instruction, they can use the money to pay for curriculum and materials, in addition to the other categories. So it's an application process. The problem with the ACE program is that the state has the parameters of the program. They have not been able to find a vendor to contract with to fulfill the technical side of reimbursing or assigning the $500 per child to an account. So all of the technical details are still being worked out for this first fiscal year. But once the contract is awarded, we will review it. I have reviewed the RFPs, which gives the parameters for the contract, and it looks like a straight-up reimbursement schedule, or if the state pre-approves vendors for families who can't afford to be paying out and then be reimbursed, the state may provide a list of approved vendors that the state would pay directly. But all of the technical details are still being worked through the Department of Education right now. But that money would be available this year, next year. You can use it in terms of the CCP program because home educating families can't use CCP dollars for curriculum and the ACE money can be used for curriculum. It's very possible that that would be a nice buffer to cover those expenses for the curriculum for CCP, especially since the state law says CCP can only be paid for with CCP funds. But if curriculum is not an allowable expense under CCP, and it's not state funds because it's federal, we believe that that would be a possibility.
So I'm so sorry. I just want to say, I think the really exciting thing about that is that, you know, Melanie shared that CCP is a program where students can take dual credit courses essentially for free. They're taxpayer funded, but essentially for free to families, except that homeschool families do pay for their own textbooks. And so this might allow families to pay for textbooks. The other piece of that is not every course is CCP eligible. So CCP funds can't pay for physical activity courses or Bible courses, but it sounds as though the ACE program funds may be able to do that.
Right, and we will be able to confirm those details once the contract is awarded and the dust kind of settles on the policy side. And then CHEO will be putting out the information for sure to put out the parameters of the program. I'm sure the state will go through a soft open and try to ease families into what the application process will look like, but it sounds pretty straightforward.
So that will be posted on the CHEO website when it's
and
available?
our social media pages as well.
Okay. And did you say at lunch that there is an income parameter for that?
Yes, thank you for saying that, because that is a very important distinction with the ACE program as opposed to CCP. To participate with the ACE dollars from the COVID relief, your family income has to be 300% or lower than the federal poverty level. So, for example, for a family of 4, that would be around $79,000 a year. For a family of 6, I think it bumps up to about $103,000 a year for the family income, joint husband-wife.
I do not know how you keep those numbers in your head, Melanie.
Seriously. It's very impressive.
It is.
So you briefly mentioned, but we do have a question of how we would find more information about this program. It's the ACE program.
Yes.
So do you just recommend going to the CHEO webpage?
Yes, you can come to the CHEO webpage. I believe we still have it up as a legislative update. You can also directly email cheo@cheohome.org, and I can send you some of the documentation that we have on it and answer any questions that you may have.
All right, awesome. So our next question would be for Shelley about the eligibility requirements for CCP, because things have changed.
They have. And again, Melanie is the legislative expert, but last summer, the state of Ohio passed House Bill 110, and House Bill 110 actually had several changes to the CCP legislation. But one of the important ones is the eligibility requirement. So I have a slide, if I can find it here. And yes, can you put that up for us, Chris? Oh, it didn't. It didn't go. All right, so I'll just share this with you. So the CCP eligibility requirements used to say that a student in grades 7 through 12 who had a 3.0 GPA and who or who scored well, I'm sorry, not scored well, met the state required scores on approved tests could participate in CCP. So a test score or a 3.0 GPA. That has now changed, and so the rules now say, and I'm going to read it off of my slide that I can't show you, that eligible scores on state-approved exams are still an option for participating. A high school GPA of at least 3.0, a high school GPA of at least 2.75, and an A or B in whatever the college deems as relevant coursework, or an A or B in relevant coursework if no high school GPA is available. I think the big important thing that we need to hear there is the switch in language from a 3.0 GPA to a 3.0 high school GPA. Now that doesn't mean that 7th and 8th graders are no longer eligible. It simply means that colleges are going to begin looking for that student who has maybe taken some high school coursework while they're still in junior high.
Okay. And I believe we were able to show one of your slides.
Oh, good.
It might be working now, just to clarify.
Okay, good. I couldn't see it.
All right, so we do have a question in the chat. This sounds like a great program. If my student is eligible, how do I get started?
Right. You want me to take that one? All right. So the first step is you determine if your student is eligible. And Cedarville's academic advisors are more than happy to have a conversation with you and help you think through that. I think Melanie and I will talk about this in a little bit. Beyond CCP eligibility, you really need to look at your student and decide if they're ready. This is college coursework. It is not modified in any way for high school students. And so it's important to look at all the parameters and look at your student holistically to make sure they're ready. But from the CCP perspective, it is, do you meet the state parameters? That's the first step. The second step is that you apply for funding. I'm sorry, you apply to a college. So you can go to cedarville.edu and you can see our admission requirements. Now the interesting thing is the way the state law is set up, a college can actually have higher standards for admission than the CCP eligibility requirements. So do check out the colleges, make sure that your student meets not only CCP eligibility, but also the college's admission criteria. If so, then your student can apply to the college and get accepted. And then the final step is that the parent has to apply for funding. And they do that through an OHID account, and we can post that in the chat, the link to OHID. The parent applies for that, and you can request up to 30 credit hours per year.
There was an additional change in state law last summer with regard to the application process on the concept of mature content. That is a significant change. We have, in fact, last couple of years, legislators have shown me material that had been offered at some of the state universities that was very graphic, very, I would call pornographic. So the statute change this year was in response to families who had contacted their legislators, because we do have state laws dealing with distributing or pandering pornography to minors, and the students who are participating in College Credit Plus are most of the time under the age of 18. But in those criminal statutes, there is an education exemption. So in light of the fact that there's an education exemption on distributing that material out to minors, the change last year in state law is that they defined mature subject matter to mean a course subject matter or material of a graphic, explicit, violent, or sexual nature. The student has to sign a consent form saying that, acknowledging that they are ready emotionally and for mature subject matter. And then the parents have to sign off. This is all a part of the application process. And then the colleges have to provide guidance on how the family or the student can review course material prior to enrolling in a course. So that's not the same as admission to the college. That's after you've been accepted got your credits from CCP and then you start enrolling for classes, the college has to provide access to the materials of the class so that you can determine what classes you want to participate in or not. All colleges and universities have to have a disclaimer posted. So even Cedarville, and we don't have to worry about Cedarville in this area of concern because Cedarville's a Christian college. You're going to have professors who love the Lord. You're going to have course material that is not graphic in the way that the statute describes. Yet all universities have to post the same disclaimer. And the disclaimer states that the subject matter of a course enrolled in and under the College Credit Plus program may include materials, subject matter, or materials, including those of a graphic, explicit, violent, or sexual nature, and will not be modified based on College Credit Plus enrollee participation, regardless of where the course instruction occurs. And I wanted to read that because that's going to be posted on Cedarville's website, but that's because everyone has to post the same message. You do not have to worry that Cedarville would fall into these categories for the courses that they provide through CCP.
That's right, Melanie. And right below that statement, when we post it, we also say, however, Cedarville, all of our professors affirm our doctrinal statement annually. They all abide by our doctrinal statement and our statement of faith. And so while they are college courses and you may discuss some mature subjects, we always bring it back to the Lord and to a biblical worldview. And so that's an important distinction. And on a practical level, the way that plays out is when the family applies to the university, at Cedarville, we just send that form electronically to the parent and student. They can sign it quickly and easily. They can ask us questions about it. If they want to review materials, then through our bookstore, they can click a link and look at any of the textbooks.
That's great.
So if we have parents listening whose students are not currently involved in CCP or dual enrollment, how would you go about evaluating if your student was ready?
I love Melanie's answer to this.
Well, I think it's more than just getting free college or enrolling early in academic courses. I think students have to be spiritually ready. They have to be to the point where they're mature enough to not just handle the academic load, because where you decide to place your child in a CCP program, it is an extension of your home education responsibilities under state law. And those responsibilities are you directing the education that they will receive through CCP in this instance. So you don't want to, you want to not set them up for failure academically. You want them to be ready academically, but you also want them to have a sense of spiritual maturity so that they can be able to interact and in the fullness of a course discussion on material or whatever the case may be. You want them to have an environment that is going to build them in their faith instead of pick apart or tear at what you have been trying to build all the years that you've been home educating.
I would add to that a lot of parents want some sort of checklist or practical things that their student should be doing in order for the parent to know that they're ready. And so some things that you could think about are, how does my student communicate? Is my student able to check their email every day, email with the professor, navigate a conflict over a grade? Can they do that on their own? And are they able to do that without a lot of stress and angst in their life? Another piece of that is what are their academic strengths? If a student takes a test, then we kind of know what their academic strengths are, and we know that they can take a test without, undue anxiety. But we are test optional as a university, so many of our students haven't taken a test. So I just give parents some general guidelines. In college, your student is going to be required to write for almost any course, right? So they should be able to write a 5-paragraph essay, a 5-page research paper, and a 5-minute timed essay, all on their own, without tears, hopefully, or too many tears. So yes, writing is a big component. They need to be able to read large volumes of information and process that. And then from a math standpoint, they need to know if they're enrolling in a math or science course, that the pace of a college course is much faster than the pace of a high school course because it will be a semester-long course. So those are just some practical things that I like to share with families.
I think the writing independently is a very valid, mature step. So if a student applies or a family applies for CCP, will they automatically be accepted into a university?
Not necessarily. They will find a university that will accept them probably, or a college, maybe a community college. But as I said earlier, the colleges are allowed to set their own parameters for admission. Cedarville's are higher, somewhat higher than those for CCP. We don't do that to leave students out, but Cedarville is academically rigorous and we want to set students up for success. So when parents have questions about whether or not their students are ready for Cedarville, again, call one of our academic advisors. You can call us at 937-766-3333, or you can email dualenrollment@cedarville.edu, and we are happy to help you think through this.
We will be answering all of your questions in the chat, but if you're looking for individualized support, I definitely recommend to email Dual Enrollment. They'll certainly help you. So anything else that you think families need to know for the 2022-23 school year?
Deadlines are a big thing.
Yes.
In the last 2 years, due to COVID, the April 1st deadline was extended to May 1st. It is not extended this year, and it will not be extended. So if you have not applied yet to Cedarville or another college for your student to take classes, I recommend applying now. It often takes, several days, maybe a couple of weeks to make sure you get all of your information in to get your application complete and then have it processed. Should we talk about Cedarville's admission requirements while we're talking about that?
Yes.
All right. So, that's the wrong slide. Y'all, I'm not driving with my slides very well today. I apologize for that. All right. So Cedarville requires that a student have a high school GPA of at least 3.0. So for those of you who have 7th, 8th, and 9th graders, if they have already taken a high school course, that should go on their high school transcript. But if it's a course that was taken for 7th or 8th grade and won't count towards high school graduation, then that should go on a grade report for 7th or 8th grade. Cedarville's looking to see that a student has completed some work in their core courses. And so we want to at least see midterm grades in 9th grade in the core courses required for graduation in Ohio, just to demonstrate that a student's ready. If a student doesn't have that, they can take a test. And so we offer options for students to take tests for free. Again, reach out to us. We'll connect you with that. Cedarville students are required to submit a Christian leader recommendation. And so that is going to be someone that your student has known for at least 6 months, who is not a family member, who can speak to their walk with the Lord. And then as part of the application process, the student is asked to provide a personal statement of faith. And I just want to stop there and emphasize that it really should be the student applying for college, right? If mom is having to do the college application, then that might be your first red flag that the student isn't ready, or if you feel like your student doesn't have time to complete a college application, then maybe you should rethink whether they have time for college or not.
And again, the high school symposium that CHEO will be offering on April 2nd is 1 day past the application deadline for CCP for this year. But if you are at the beginning of your high school experience and you want some guidance for planning out the high school years, even as you interweave the possibility of CCP into that experience, knowing how to write transcripts and how to do some of the technical side of navigating high school, please sign up through CHEO's website at cheohome.org. or if you have questions on it, you can contact us at CHEO at CHEOhome.org. But there is a registration on the website that's up now for April 2nd, and it's going to be a great experience for those who are navigating high school at this time.
Thank you for that URL. I just put it in the chat, both on YouTube and Facebook. So if you're interested in that high school symposium and all the training that she just referenced, go ahead and click on that link in the chat. So Shelley just explained all of the admissions requirements for Cedarville University. So of course we'd absolutely love for your student to do their dual enrollment here, but is CCP also offered at other colleges and universities?
It is. It is. So every public Ohio college and university, community colleges included, are required to participate in CCP. There are some private colleges that participate and some private Christian colleges that participate. I don't think we've said this yet, but Cedarville offers our courses as online asynchronous courses. So that means that your student can take a course online. They can study kind of when they want and where they want. There's no live lecture that they have to log in for at 3 p.m. 3 days a week. And so it's a really good flexible option for home educators.
And you get around the concerns about the environment and the material that your children will be using in class. I think that's so important, especially for the younger students.
And local students can come to Cedarville's campus as well. I mean, we do have high school students that are taking classes right alongside our college students on campus too.
Okay, so we offer both in-class and online.
We do.
Okay. So overall, do you have any tips for applying for CCP?
Pray.
Honestly?
I'm just saying that, as you are praying for your children every day, I'm sure, you're also praying for yourself for wisdom and guidance in helping to direct their steps. Now my children are in their mid-30s. We are grandparents, so we are some years beyond the high school experience. But I will never regret praying for the Lord's, especially through the first chapter of Ephesians, where Paul is praying for the believers at Ephesus. And he's asking God to enlighten the eyes of their heart so that they understand their relationship with Him and the power that they have in their relationship with Him. That's a very awesome tool when you're praying for your children, at the same time praying for yourself as you are trying to make recommendations and sort of steer them in the right direction for educational experiences, whether it's through dual enrollment or as you're finishing up your homeschool experience, how the Lord will direct their steps in the years ahead. It's amazing to watch what the Lord does in the lives of your children. It's just an amazing experience. We loved home educating, but it's amazing when you get to that other end and you see how the Lord takes what you've done, all the seeds that you've planted, and brings things into fruition in their lives abundantly beyond what you could expect. It's awesome.
I mean,
Melanie's a tough act to follow.
is this a CCP FAQ live stream or is this small group? I feel like she's leading our small group at church.
Well, I'm going to add to that. Not only pray for your child, but pray with your child. As your student becomes a college student, and they are technically a college student when they're enrolled in CCP courses, your student begins to become the master of their own education. And so praying with them and mentoring them and teaching them how to make appropriate course choices, appropriate choices about their time, and allowing them the freedom to make some of those choices on their own is really invaluable in preparing them for college.
Yes.
So good. Such wise counsel. All right, so that was our planned questions, but now we have a chat full of questions. So we're going to dive into YouTube. So Erin is asking, what specific classes do you recommend for CCP students at Cedarville?
Okay. Well, typically our CCP students start with general education courses. So if you look at any college catalog, you're going to see that there are general education or core courses that are required for graduation. many of those courses will overlap with what is required for high school graduation. So maybe an English course, a speech course, a biology or math course, a history course. Those are the kinds of things that our students start with.
Okay. So Maggie is asking, just to reiterate, where do you start for CCP?
You start with deciding if your student is eligible. So you can go to cedarville.edu/dual enrollment. On the left-hand side of the page, you'll see some breadcrumbs, and one of those will take you to College Credit Plus. There you'll find the eligibility requirements. So determine if your student is eligible. We have links to the test score requirements, the minimum scores that have to be obtained. If your student is CCP eligible, then flip back to our admissions requirement page, make sure your student is eligible for admission to Cedarville, and then apply. And then after you've applied for admission to Cedarville and you have your letter of admission to Cedarville, then you will open an OHID account through the state, and you will apply for funding. The documents that you need in order to apply for funding are a letter of admission from a college and your compulsory letter of...
Excusal letter.
Oh, thank you. Say the words for me, Melanie. I won't get them right.
It's the excusal letter for home educating when you notify, you turn in your notification of intent, and then you get the excusal letter back from the school that says everything is fine on your notification.
Yes.
That
So
letter.
your excusal letter, your letter of admission, and then a high school transcript. If your student has taken college courses anywhere else, then or even at Cedarville, then you should also have a copy of your unofficial college transcript.
Shelley, I have a question, and I think it was asked and answered in the last Facebook Live, and I thought it was important. The excusal letter that families have in April are for this past school year.
You should have received it in August last year. So
Right.
it's the 2021-22.
So even though they're applying for College Credit Plus for the next school year, you don't have to wait to get that excusal letter. You can use the excusal letter that you have now, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
this is correct. The exception to this is if you are a family who currently has their student enrolled in a public or private school this year and you are planning to homeschool next year. In that case, you need to reach out actually to CHEO and get a copy of the form that you need for your excusal letter and submit that to your local school superintendent.
And that's, whoever contacts us for that, we will walk you through what she means by that.
So you mentioned a little bit about public school. So I'm going to read this question, and whoever knows the answer, take it away. So my local public school has never partnered with a private Christian university to enroll a home-educated child full-time. Is this possible?
The local public school partnered with who?
My local public school has never partnered with a private Christian university to enroll a home-educated child full-time.
Through a CCP program or separately?
That's all I know.
Okay.
So I see this a little bit. Sometimes a family will enroll their student in the public school to get the CCP funding, but then the student attends college for all of their courses. And so my answer would be, briefly,
It's not necessary.
well, it's not really necessary because if your student is a junior or a senior, they're going to get quite a few CCP hours typically.
Right.
But if you do choose to do that, you should know that public high schools and private high schools are required to allow the student to choose whatever college they want to go to. They cannot tell you that you have to partner with their school.
Years ago, when home educating families did not have access to CCP dollars or post-secondary enrollment dollars, they did do the partial enrollment so that they could gain access to the College Credit Plus or the dual enrollment programs. But now that there's a budgeted amount for home educating families, it's a straightforward process to apply as a home educating family without involving the local public school.
Right, and students get a fair number of credits. I think last year Most of our seniors got 20 to 24 credit hours. Juniors got in the 16 to 20 credit hour range. And then the students who don't get a lot of credit hours tend to be the freshmen and below. They get 4 credit hours typically. But quite honestly, many of them wait until the spring semester to take their first class. If you're just entering your freshman year of high school is a big adjustment in and of itself. So sometimes families take that semester to acclimate to high school, and then they take a course in the spring. Or sometimes they do take a course over the summer. Cedarville offers online courses all summer long for all of our dual enrolled students. And then we offer a 2-week residential program called Summer Scholars in June for our rising juniors and seniors.
So you hit on this a little bit, but should we request the full 30 credits as a homeschool student through the Ohio CCP program?
Can I take that one?
Sure.
So you should request the number of credits that your student is going to need. Because the credits that you get, if you don't use them, are credits that another family might have been able to use and can't. Because you can't share credits, they don't get returned, they don't roll over to the next year. So it's like a buffet. You should, put on your plate what your student actually needs. And that requires some planning in advance. The other piece of that, and I had a thought, it kind of went out of my mind. There used to be kind of a myth within the homeschool world that the more credit hours you asked for, the more you were likely to receive. And that is simply a myth. The way the credits are distributed is that once the funding applications are all in at 5 p.m. on April 1st, don't miss that deadline or you miss the boat. Once your funding application is in, then CCP will go through the applications. They will divide them by grade level, and then they will distribute funding in allotments of 4 credit hours to seniors, and then to juniors, and then to sophomores, on down the line, and then they keep returning back up to those seniors and repeating that process until all of the credits are allotted.
And the amount of funds available this budget cycle is double what it was when it first became available to home educating families. So I think initially it was around in the neighborhood of 1.5 million per year, fiscal year, and now it's at 3 million per fiscal year. And that has been in response to the number of families that have sought participation.
Right. But I do think it's in response to the number of families and not the number of credit hours that were requested.
So you said that this applies, or every public and private university in Ohio is required to participate?
Every public is required.
Every public is required. Private schools have to opt in.
Okay. So the question is, are there other Christian colleges or universities in Ohio that take CCP students?
Yes. The one that comes to mind is Ohio Christian. You can check any college that you're interested in and see if they take CCP. I don't know the full list of colleges.
Would the Department of Education have a list on their website?
Their website is not always the easiest to navigate for families who are new to it. But yes, it should be there somewhere.
So in theory, if they just searched a Google search with the college name and dual enrollment or CCP, it should come up.
Right. I would probably recommend going to the college's website and then in the search bar on the website, type in the letters CCP, see what comes up.
Okay, very good.
I guess I should add one more thing to that, Sarah. I'm sorry. The state does allow private schools to charge more, like an additional fee per credit hour. Cedarville does not do that. I can't speak for other private colleges, whether they do that or not.
Okay. I think this is a general education question, but do we accept CLEP credits at Cedarville?
We do. We do. So again, go to cedarville.edu. In the search bar, type in CLEP, and you will see a nice, neat, handy-dandy little PDF that will tell you which CLEP tests we accept and what score you have to earn in order to get credit, and it will even tell you which course it is the equivalent of. Please keep in mind that the CLEP tests and the AP tests change annually, so we reevaluate those courses and what credit is offered for them annually as well.
All right, so this one is a little more specific, so I'm going to show you. So Megan has a question. I am at the step where I need to submit my notice of intent for next year to the state of Ohio for my daughter to do CCP through Cedarville next year. My question is, what all do I need to put on that notice of intent? Do I need to wait until she has decided what classes she wants to take through Cedarville, or do I just state that she will be doing CCP through the college next year?
So when you use the term notice of intent, it's not the application for CCP, it's the notice of intent to file to be a home educating family. And there is parameters within that notice of intent to express what your intended curriculum will be. You have to guarantee 900 hours of instruction under a list of various subject areas. And there's a spot to indicate if someone else will be instructing your child. It should be sufficient if the courses have not been assigned. You don't, at the time you provide your notice of intent to the school district, you are giving the information that you know at that moment. So if your child has not enrolled at the time that you enrolled for specific classes, at the time you turn in your notice of intent, you do not have to include that in that box. So you're only, and it's a notice of intent, so if the information changes after you file with the local school district, you are not providing a follow-up notice of intent. There's no circling back to change anything on the form that you turned in to your local school district. So no, you do not have to include, let me see if we got the full scope of her question. What do I need to put on that notice of intent? If you are signed up for courses, you can list those. If you are not signed up for courses, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think some families put the courses that they hope to enroll in, and then if they need to shift or now, then you do that. That's
Right.
for your intent to homeschool. There's also an intent to participate form in CCP, and that's language that is a little bit old for homeschool families. Public school families or students have to submit an intent to participate in CCP to their guidance counselor. For homeschool and private school families, that intent to participate form is now part of the funding application. It used to be a separate paper, but it is no longer.
So what if a family applied and was awarded credit hours last year, but they did not use them? Will that affect the application process this year?
No, it won't prevent you from getting hours. Those hours do expire as of if you didn't spend any hours that were unspent by the spring semester, just go back into the pot. But I don't think that when I say they go back into the pot doesn't grow next year because of those.
No, the pot is set for the next 2 years, and then in the next budget cycle, well, I should say that the pot is set for fiscal year 22-23, and then in March of next year, we will have a new budget that will be approved by July, and we'll know if the amount changes or stays the same.
Okay.
So since your credits expire in the spring semester, that means that the funding application you're submitting now for 22-23 academic year, those credits are available to you in the summer. So your student can take a summer course.
This summer of 22? Okay.
Yes, you're applying now for funding for summer of 22.
Okay. So has the need for an ACT test been waived again for the next year by the state of Ohio for CCP?
No, it has not. The Act for Home Educating Families, I'm very glad that question was asked because we're getting calls in our office on the same question. There is no waiver this year that is COVID related, so everything goes back to the way it should be in the home education regulations. There's an academic assessment report that has to be filed when you notify your school district. So there's the assessment world goes back to reset to normal.
Okay.
But for the purposes of CCP funding, it used to be, again, a test score and a 3.0 GPA. Now the language says a test score or a 3.0 high school GPA minimum. And that's an unweighted high school GPA minimum.
Okay. Okay. This is a specific question. We will be going on the mission field this October. Our child will take the CCP classes online. Since we will still have a residence in Ohio next year, can our student apply for CCP next year?
Yes, I don't see why not.
Okay.
So they would be notifying in the district of residence, you will be notifying your school district before you leave for the mission field in October. So you will be providing a notice of intent. Make sure you get your excusal letter back within the 14-day window that the regulations require. Sometimes school districts are a little slower in getting those letters out. So you'll want to, politely but firmly request your letter acknowledging that your child has been excused from compulsory attendance. So then you need that for the CCP application process. So yes.
This is specifically for Shelley. My daughter has applied to Cedarville College now, or dual enrollment, and received the email notification of acceptance, but has not received the acceptance letter. How can she get an acceptance letter for the CCP funding application?
Okay, good question. And first of all, I want to clarify what Sarah alluded to. Our College Now program is now simply called dual enrollment. We found that lots of families were confused between the language of College Now and College Credit Plus. So we are the dual enrollment program. Your student, the email that she received, she should be able to click into her application portal and pull up an electronic copy of her acceptance letter. If she struggles with that, again, call us 937-766-3333. We'll help walk her through that.
So someone's coming in late, so can you clarify one more time the difference between CCP and dual enrollment?
Well, CCP is dual enrollment, and so this is again an important distinction. When you accept CCP funds, you are accepting the responsibility of putting whatever grade your student earns, for better or for worse, on both the high school and the college transcript. CCP is a dual credit program. Cedarville also offers a discounted tuition, significantly 80% off of our regular tuition for families who don't want to take dual enrollment, but who want to take a course for college credit only, or who want to take a course that is not eligible under CCP rules, like our Bible minor courses.
I have a question, if we can interweave it into the chat room list, because I thought of it when you were just giving that explanation. If a student does not pass a course that they have signed up for, and they have finished their course, it's been paid for with College Credit Plus dollars, they are responsible for reimbursing the state, correct, for the course that they did not pass.
The state language says that. And so if your student is in a public school, they will be probably asked to reimburse that, because the public school is the one actually paying for the student's course. When the student is enrolled as a homeschool or private school student, Cedarville doesn't really get involved in that reimbursement process. That's up to the state whether they seek reimbursement or not, but legally they can. Also, if your student fails a course, or if they withdraw from 2 or more courses in this same semester, they will be placed on academic probation. That's a CCP rule, not a Cedarville rule. And when a student is on probation, they are only eligible to take 1 college course in the next 2 semesters, or until they raise their GPA above a 2.0.
Something else, one other detail that I don't remember if it was discussed in the last Facebook Live even, is the fact that if a student completes like hypothetically, let's say they complete 15 hours of classes under College Credit Plus, and then they're finished with their homeschool experience, but they want to apply to Cedarville or another university for scholarships. State law says because you have classes in your record at the college level, you can still apply for whatever scholarships are eligible for first-year students. So you're not discriminated against in terms of being an actual full-time college student in going after scholarship money that would be available for first-year students only.
Yeah, that's right. The credits will transfer, but you are not considered a transfer student.
You're still considered first-year student when you come.
Right, as long as you don't take a gap year. And if you take a gap year and then you take more courses during that gap year, then you could be considered a transfer student. So talk to an academic advisor. I don't know that we've mentioned this, but you can earn up to 120 credits before you graduate from high school. Again, talk with an academic advisor, because if you're earning those credits at one institution and transferring them somewhere else, there are institutional rules that apply for every college. So just make sure you know those.
So when credit hours are being allocated, why is it in sets of 4 when a typical college course is 3?
Is it because of the lab classes?
It is. It's because most foreign language, lab classes, science classes, and math classes are more than 3 credit hours.
All right, I think that is all the questions from the chat. So do you have a final piece of encouragement or wisdom that you want to offer about CCP, homeschooling, or dual enrollment?
I just want to encourage families to pursue for their children who they know best and who the Lord has placed them under your care for all of these years. Don't walk away from opportunities for the Lord to expand your horizons. Or the horizons for your students. The Lord knows what you need before you ask. So again, I come back to the fact that prayer is very important. Prayer with your husband or wife, prayer with your children together, seeking what the Lord's direction would be. He will walk ahead of you and supply. He's always one step ahead of where we are in terms of meeting those needs, and He will guide you in amazing ways through whether it's CCP or a different experience. He will provide the guidance if you ask.
Indeed, He will. I would add to that, homeschooling has been one of the biggest blessings of my life. I came into the homeschool world kicking and screaming, telling the Lord that I would do it for 1 year and no more. And 26 years later, here I am. CCP, dual enrollment, it has been a huge blessing in my homeschool, but we have also been very careful and cautious and worked closely with colleges to make sure that we're making wise choices. And so that would be my advice to you. Choose a college that aligns with your beliefs, and then let your student grow and flourish and work with their academic advisor to begin to learn to navigate making those educational choices on their own. And persevere. You can do it.
Thank you. Great answers, ladies. So would you mind to put up that slide again with all the contact information? So we hope that this was helpful in a general sense, but we also would like to help you specifically. So check out these email addresses. You can email CHEO if you're looking for things on the state level, or you can email dual enrollment, specifically at Cedarville, if you're looking for the admissions process with information on how to apply for Cedarville. And both of these ladies would love to assist you. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. I hope this was helpful. Please share it with your friends, with your other homeschool families, if you thought this information was useful. We hope you have a wonderful Tuesday.